Zarthok the Destroyer stood in the center of his command ship, looking at the message that had just arrived from a small blue planet called Earth. His massive frame towered 8 feet above the metal floor, and his thick exoskeleton gleamed. Under the bright lights of the ship, the message played again on the large screen in front of him, and each time he heard it, his anger grew stronger. The human woman on the screen had dark hair and wore a white coat. She spoke with a calm voice that made Zarthok want to crush something with his powerful hands. Her name was Dr. Alina Rodriguez, and she claimed to speak for something called the Interstellar Communications Division of Earth. What she said next made Zarthok's blood boil with rage. "We have heard of your reputation as the strongest warrior in the galaxy," the woman said, looking directly into the camera. "However, we believe that our average citizens could defeat you in fair combat. We invite you to come to Earth and test this claim. Choose any random person from our world, and we will see who is truly stronger." Zarthok replayed the message 5 times, each viewing making him more furious than the last. His cybernetic implants glowed brighter as his anger increased, and the metal floor beneath his feet cracked under the pressure of his weight. No one had ever dared to challenge him like this before. No one had ever suggested that common people could stand against the champion of the Galactic Combat League. For 47 years, Zarthok had fought across 17 different worlds. He had defeated warriors from every known species in the galaxy. His strength could bend steel bars into twisted shapes, and his speed was faster than most creatures could even see. The cybernetic enhancements in his nervous system made his reflexes lightning quick, and his exoskeleton could protect him from plasma weapons and energy blasts that would kill lesser beings instantly. The Vorthok Empire had made him their greatest champion after he won 300 consecutive battles without a single defeat. Other warriors feared even speaking his name, and entire planets had surrendered rather than face him in combat. The idea that soft, weak humans from a primitive world could challenge him was beyond insulting. Zarthok called his communications officer to the command center. The smaller alien rushed in quickly, knowing better than to keep the destroyer waiting. When he was angry, the officer's hands shook as he prepared the broadcasting equipment that would send Zarthok's response across the entire galaxy. "Send this message to every inhabited world," Zarthok commanded, his voice deep and threatening. "I accept the challenge from the humans of Earth. I will travel to their pathetic little world and show them what real strength looks like. I will choose one of their average citizens, as they suggested, and I will defeat them in less than 5 minutes. The entire galaxy will watch as I prove once again that I am the strongest warrior alive." The message was sent out immediately, reaching thousands of worlds within hours. News of the challenge spread quickly through the galactic networks. Betting stations opened on every civilized planet, with odds heavily favoring Zarthok. Most aliens gave the human fighter no chance at all, with some betting pools offering odds of 10,000 to 1 against the Earth warrior. Entertainment networks across the galaxy began preparing for what they called the shortest fight in combat history. Special broadcast teams were assembled to cover the event, and viewing parties were planned on worlds light years away from Earth. Everyone wanted to see the mighty Zarthok crush another opponent, especially one from such a backward planet. Zarthok spent the next few days preparing his ship for the journey to Earth. He studied what little information was available about the human homeworld, finding it to be even more primitive than he had imagined. The planet had only one intelligent species, and they had not even developed faster-than-light travel yet. Their weapons were crude, their technology was basic, and their physical capabilities seemed laughably weak compared to most galactic species. The destroyer looked at images of human beings and could barely contain his laughter. They were small, soft creatures with no natural armor or weapons. They had no claws, no fangs, no protective shells, and no enhanced strength. Their planet seemed pleasant enough, with lots of water and green plants, but it looked far too comfortable to produce real warriors. Zarthok had grown up on a harsh world where only the strongest survived, and he could not imagine how such a gentle environment could create fighters worthy of respect. That as his ship began the journey toward Earth, Zarthok felt confident that this would be his easiest victory yet. He would land on the human world, select the strongest-looking human he could find, defeat them quickly, and then leave to find more worthy opponents. The whole thing would probably take less time than it took his ship to refuel. The galaxy watched and waited as the most feared warrior in known space traveled toward a small blue planet whose inhabitants had no idea what kind of power was coming their way. The massive alien ship descended from the cloudy sky above Las Vegas, Nevada, casting a dark shadow over the desert landscape below. People for miles around stopped what they were doing to stare up at the enormous vessel that slowly lowered itself toward the designated landing area outside the city. The ship was larger than most buildings, with a dark metal surface that seemed to absorb the bright desert sunlight. General Patrick O'Brien stood near the hastily constructed arena that his team had built for the challenge. He was a tall man, with gray hair and serious eyes, who had spent 30 years in the military, but he had never prepared for anything like this before. Around him, soldiers from the Earth Defense Force checked their equipment one final time, even though everyone knew their weapons would be useless if things went wrong. News crews from every major network in the world had gathered at the site. Helicopters circled overhead, and satellite trucks lined the roads leading to the area. Reporter Lisa Chang stood in front of one of the cameras, speaking to millions of viewers around the globe who were watching the historic event unfold. "This is truly an unprecedented moment in human history," Lisa said into her microphone, trying to keep her voice steady despite the excitement and fear she felt. "We are about to witness first contact with an alien species, and that contact will take the form of hand-to-hand combat between their champion and one of our own citizens." Dr. Elena Rodriguez walked nervously around the arena, checking the equipment that would broadcast the fight to the aliens' homeworld and across the galaxy. She wore the same white coat from her challenge message, but now it was wrinkled from stress and lack of sleep. She had spent the last week working with engineers and scientists to make sure everything would work properly when the moment came. The alien ship touched down with a sound like thunder, and the ground shook beneath everyone's feet. Steam rose from the landing site as the hot metal of the ship met the cool desert air. For several long minutes, nothing happened, and the only sounds were the worry of camera equipment and the nervous conversations of the gathered crowd. Then a door opened on the side of the ship, and Zarthok the destroyer stepped out onto Earth for the first time. Gasps rose from the crowd as they saw his massive form emerge from the darkness of his vessel. He was even larger than the pictures had suggested, and his exoskeleton gleamed like polished stone in the bright sunlight. Each step he took left deep impressions in the hard-packed earth beneath his feet. Zarthok looked around at the assembled humans with obvious disappointment. He had expected to see warriors preparing for battle, but instead he saw small, weak creatures holding cameras and notepads. Many of them seemed afraid of him, which pleased him somewhat, but none of them looked like they could provide even a few seconds of decent combat. Dr. Rodriguez approached the alien warrior slowly, accompanied by a team of translators and military officers. She tried to appear confident, but her hands shook slightly as she activated the translation device that would allow them to communicate. "Welcome to Earth," she said, her words immediately converted into Zarthok's language by the electronic device. "I am Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the person who sent you the challenge message. We are honored by your presence here." Zarthok looked down at the small human woman and made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "You are the one who claimed your people could defeat me?" he asked, his voice so deep and loud that it made the translation equipment vibrate. "You look like you would break if I breathed on you too hard." "I will not be fighting you," Dr. Rodriguez replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "As we stated in our message, you may choose any random citizen from our population. We have gathered volunteers from the local area, and you may select whichever person you prefer to face in combat." The alien warrior scanned the crowd of humans that had gathered to watch the event. Most of them were reporters, scientists, and military personnel, but mixed among them were ordinary citizens who had come to witness the historic moment. Zarthok's enhanced vision allowed him to study each person carefully, looking for signs of strength or fighting ability. His gaze stopped on Jake Morrison, a construction worker who had driven out from the city to see what all the excitement was about. Jake was an average-looking man in his 30s, with brown hair and a slightly overweight build from years of eating fast food during lunch breaks. He wore jeans and a work shirt, and he had dirt under his fingernails from the construction site where he had been working that morning. Jake had not planned to be part of the event at all. He had simply heard about the alien landing on his radio, and decided to drive out to see it for himself. Now he found himself staring up at the most dangerous creature in the galaxy, who was staring back at him with obvious interest. "That one," Zarthok said, pointing a massive finger toward Jake. "He looks slightly less pathetic than the others. I choose him as my opponent." Jake felt his stomach drop as hundreds of eyes turned toward him. He had never been in a real fight in his life, unless he counted the time in high school when Billy Henderson had given him a black eye over a girl they both liked. Now he was supposed to fight an alien warrior who could apparently crush steel with his bare hands. "Sir, you don't have to do this," General O'Brien said, approaching Jake quickly. "We can find someone else." someone with military training or combat experience. Jake looked around at all the people watching him, then back up at the alien warrior who seemed amused by the human's obvious fear. Something inside him refused to back down, even though every logical part of his mind was screaming at him to run away as fast as possible. No, it's okay, Jake said, surprising himself with how calm his voice sounded. If he wants to fight me, then let's get this over with. Jake Morrison stepped into the makeshift arena, his work boots kicking up small clouds of dust from the desert floor. He rolled his shoulders and stretched his neck, the same way he did every morning before starting his shift at the construction site. Around him, cameras captured every movement for broadcast across the galaxy. While thousands of humans and billions of aliens watched with intense interest, Zarthok entered the arena from the opposite side, each of his steps causing small vibrations in the ground. He flexed his massive arms and activated his cybernetic implants, causing bright blue lights to pulse along his exoskeleton. The alien warrior had fought in environments ranging from frozen ice worlds to planets with crushing gravity, and he felt completely confident about this encounter. Dr. Rodriguez stood at the edge of the arena with a timer in her hands. "The rules are simple," she announced through the translation device. "No weapons, victory by submission or incapacitation, and the fight ends when one opponent can no longer continue. The timer starts now." The moment the fight began, moved forward with surprising speed for such a large creature. His cybernetic enhancements kicked in, and he prepared to end the combat quickly with a single devastating blow. But within the first 30 seconds, something felt wrong. His movements seemed slightly off, and his balance was not quite right. Jake moved differently than Zarthok had expected. The human construction worker did not try to meet the alien's charge head-on, which would have been suicide. Instead, he shifted to the side and used his knowledge of leverage and weight distribution that came from years of moving heavy equipment and materials. When Zarthok's first swing missed its target, Jake was already in a different position. The alien warrior stumbled slightly, caught off guard by his own clumsiness. His cybernetic implants, which had been calibrated for the gravity and atmospheric conditions of his homeworld, were not functioning properly in Earth's environment. The gravity was lighter than what he was used to, but the atmospheric pressure and oxygen content were affecting his systems in ways he had not anticipated. Earth's atmosphere contained 21% oxygen, which was much higher than most planets in the galaxy. Zarthok's respiratory system, designed for lower oxygen environments, began to struggle with the rich air. Instead of giving him more energy, the extra oxygen was making him slightly dizzy and disoriented. His cybernetic implants started to malfunction as they tried to compensate for conditions they had never encountered before. Jake, meanwhile, was breathing normally and felt fine. He had lived his entire life in Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere, and his body was perfectly adapted to these conditions, the same environment that was causing problems for the alien. Warrior was giving Jake exactly what he needed to keep moving and thinking clearly, but the real problems for Zarthok were just beginning. Earth's magnetic field, which protected the planet from harmful radiation, was interfering with his neural implants in unexpected ways. The electronic components in his body had been designed to work in the sterile environments of space stations and the controlled atmospheres of other worlds. Earth's complex electromagnetic environment was causing feedback loops and processing errors in his cybernetic systems. Dr. Rodriguez watched from the sidelines with growing amazement. She had spent years studying Earth's unique environmental conditions, and she was beginning to see her theories proven correct. Earth was not just another planet, it was an extreme environment that most galactic species would find hostile and dangerous. The sun's radiation, filtered through Earth's atmosphere and magnetic field, was affecting Zarthok's exoskeleton in ways that his creators had never anticipated. The power cells that fed his cybernetic implants were designed to work with specific types of radiation, but Earth's solar radiation had a different spectrum that was causing his energy systems to operate inefficiently. By the 2-minute mark, Zarthok was breathing heavily and sweating inside his exoskeleton. His movements had become slower and less coordinated, and his balance was getting worse with each passing second. He tried to compensate by increasing the power to his cybernetic implants, but this only made the problems worse as his systems struggled to handle the additional load. Jake noticed that his opponent was having difficulties, but he did not understand what was causing them. The construction worker continued to move carefully around the arena, staying out of reach of Zarthok's powerful arms, while the alien warrior grew more and more frustrated with his inability to land a solid hit. The most dangerous threat to Zarthok was invisible and microscopic. Earth's incredibly diverse microbial environment was unlike anything that existed on other worlds. The air around him was filled with thousands of different types of bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms that his immune system had never encountered before. His body's defenses, evolved to handle the limited pathogens of his sterile homeworld, were completely overwhelmed by Earth's biological complexity. Within 3 minutes of entering Earth's atmosphere, Zarthok's immune system was fighting a losing battle against dozens of different microorganisms. His body temperature began to rise as his internal defenses went into overdrive, trying to cope with the biological assault. The alien warrior had never experienced anything like this before, and he had no idea what was happening to him. Jake could see that something was seriously wrong with his opponent. The massive alien was swaying on his feet, and his skin had taken on a strange color that did not look healthy. The construction worker's natural instinct was to help someone who was clearly in distress, but he was not sure if approaching the alien warrior would be safe for either of them. Zarthok made one last desperate attempt to win the fight, lunging forward with all his remaining strength, but his coordination was completely gone, and instead of connecting with his target, he stumbled and fell to one knee. His cybernetic implants flickered and sparked as they finally gave up trying to function in Earth's hostile environment. Zarthok struggled to stay upright as his body fought against Earth's environment in ways he had never imagined possible. The timer showed 3 minutes and 45 seconds, and the alien warrior was losing a battle he did not even understand. His massive frame shook with each labored breath, and sweat poured down his face inside his malfunctioning exoskeleton. The microscopic lifeforms in Earth's atmosphere were wreaking havoc on his immune system. Every breath he took brought thousands of new bacteria and viruses into his body, each one completely foreign to his biological defenses. His homeworld had been carefully sterilized over thousands of years of technological advancement, creating a clean environment where only a few dozen types of microorganisms existed. Earth, by contrast, was a wild biological laboratory with millions of different life forms competing and evolving in an endless dance of survival. Jake Morrison stood a few feet away, watching with growing concern as his opponent's condition deteriorated rapidly. The construction worker had expected to be beaten unconscious within seconds of the fight starting. But instead he found himself watching the galaxy's strongest warrior fall apart in front of his eyes. Jake's natural instinct to help people in trouble was stronger than his fear of the alien creature. "Hey, are you okay?" Jake asked, taking a cautious step forward. His voice was gentle and concerned, which confused Zarthok even more than his physical symptoms. In the warrior culture of his homeworld, opponents fought to the death without mercy or compassion. The idea that his enemy would show concern for his well-being was completely alien to everything he had been taught about combat. Dr. Rodriguez and her medical team were already moving toward the arena, recognizing that this was no longer a fight but a medical emergency. Captain Amy Foster, the head of the Earth Defense Force medical unit, carried a portable scanner that could analyze alien biology. She had spent the last week studying everything that was known about Zarthok's species, preparing for the possibility that medical intervention might be needed. "His body temperature is spiking," Captain Foster called out as she read the scanner results. "His immune system is in complete overdrive, and his cybernetic implants are failing across the board. He's going into systemic shock." Zarthok tried to speak, but his voice came out as a weak croak that the translation device could barely interpret. His legs gave out completely, and he crashed to the ground with a sound like a small building collapsing. The timer showed 4 minutes and 23 seconds when the undefeated champion of the Galactic Combat League hit the dirt and lay motionless. Jake immediately dropped to his knees beside the fallen alien, despite warnings from the military personnel around the arena. "Someone call for help," he shouted, though medical teams were already rushing toward them. The construction worker had seen people collapse from heat exhaustion on job sites before, and he recognized the signs of someone whose body was shutting down from stress. "Don't try to move," Jake said to Zarthok, even though he was not sure if the alien could understand him. "Help is coming. Just stay calm and try to breathe slowly." The alien warrior's eyes focused on Jake's face with great difficulty. He had been defeated, but not in any way he could have imagined. No weapon had touched him, no blow had been landed, and no technique had been used against him. Instead, the very air of this planet was killing him, and the human he had chosen. As his opponent was trying to save his life, Dr. Rodriguez reached the arena and immediately began coordinating with the medical team. "We need to get him to a sterile environment immediately," she said, her scientific mind already working through the implications of what they were witnessing. His immune system can't handle Earth's microbial diversity. We're looking at complete biological system failure. Captain Foster and her team worked quickly to stabilize Zarthok's condition. They used portable equipment to create a temporary clean zone around the alien warrior, filtering the air and reducing his exposure to Earth's biological complexity. His cybernetic implants had completely shut down, leaving him dependent entirely on his natural biological functions. "This is incredible," Dr. Rodriguez muttered as she watched the medical team work. "Earth's environment is acting like a biological weapon against him. The oxygen content, the electromagnetic fields, the radiation spectrum, and especially the microbial diversity, it's all combining to create a perfectly hostile environment for his physiology." Jake stayed close to Zarthok even as the medical teams worked around them. The construction worker felt sorry for the alien warrior, who had clearly not expected anything like this to happen. "You're going to be okay," Jake said, though he was not sure if that was true. "We'll take care of you." The crowd of reporters and spectators watched in stunned silence as the galaxy's most feared warrior was loaded onto a medical transport vehicle. Lisa Chang spoke quietly into her microphone, trying to explain to her viewers what they had just witnessed. In what may be the most shocking upset in combat history, Earth's environment itself has defeated the champion of the Galactic Combat League without a single blow being exchanged. As the medical transport rushed toward the emergency medical facility that had been prepared for the event, Jake rode along at Captain Foster's invitation. The construction worker had somehow become part of the most important first contact event in human history, and he still did not fully understand what had happened. Zarthok drifted in and out of consciousness during the transport, his body struggling to cope with biological challenges it had never faced before. When he was awake, his eyes often sought out Jake's face, as if trying to understand why this human was showing him kindness instead of celebrating his victory. The timer had stopped at 4 minutes and 37 seconds, marking the end of Zarthok's perfect combat record, but more importantly, it marked the beginning of a new understanding between two very different species, one that would change how the galaxy viewed both Earth and humanity forever. The medical facility hummed with activity as Earth's best scientists and doctors worked to keep Zarthok alive. The alien warrior lay in a specially constructed isolation chamber that filtered out most of Earth's microscopic life forms, while machines monitored every aspect of his biological functions. Dr. Rodriguez stood outside the chamber with a team of xenobiologists, studying readouts that told an incredible story about the differences between Earth and the rest of the galaxy. "His immune system is unlike anything we've ever seen," said Dr. Kevin Walsh, the facility's chief of alien biology. "It's incredibly sophisticated, but also incredibly specialized. It's designed to handle maybe 50 different types of pathogens, and it handles them perfectly. But Earth has millions of different microorganisms, and his system just can't cope with that level of diversity." Jake Morrison sat in a chair beside the isolation chamber, still wearing his dusty work clothes from the construction site. He had refused to leave despite offers to take him home, feeling somehow responsible for what had happened to the alien warrior. In his hands, he held a thermos of chicken soup that his wife had packed for his lunch, though he had not eaten any of it. Inside the chamber, Zarthok's eyes opened slowly as the medical treatments began to take effect. The sterile environment had given his immune system a chance to recover, and his body temperature was finally returning to normal levels. He saw Jake sitting outside the chamber and made a weak gesture with his hand. "I think he wants to talk to you," Captain Forster said to Jake. She activated the communication system that would allow them to speak through the chamber's barriers. The translation device had been repaired and was working properly again. "How are you feeling?" Jake asked. His voice transmitted into the chamber where Zarthok could hear it clearly. "I do not understand," Zarthok replied, his voice still weak but gaining strength. "You defeated me, yet you show concern for my health. In my culture, the victor claims the spoils and leaves the defeated to die. Why do you act differently?" Jake thought about the question for a moment, then shrugged in his typical casual way. "Because you're hurt, and I'm not the kind of person who walks away when someone needs help. It doesn't matter that we were fighting, the fight is over now, and you need medical attention." This answer seemed to confuse Zarthok even more. On his homeworld, strength was measured only by the ability to defeat enemies in combat. The concept of helping a fallen opponent was not just foreign to him, it was completely incomprehensible. Yet here was this ordinary human showing more honor than any warrior he had ever met. Dr. Rodriguez approached the chamber with a tablet full of research data. "We've been analyzing what happened to you out there," she said to Zarthok. I think you deserve to understand why Earth's environment affected you so severely. She activated a holographic display that showed comparative data between Earth and other planets in the galaxy. Most inhabited worlds have been terraformed or naturally developed to have very stable, clean environments. Your home world, for example, has been carefully maintained for thousands of years. The air is pure, the radiation levels are controlled, and the microbial life is limited and well understood. The display shifted to show Earth's environmental data, and the differences were dramatic. Earth, on the other hand, is what we call a wild world. It has never been terraformed or artificially controlled. The result is an incredibly complex ecosystem with millions of different life forms, constantly changing environmental conditions, and natural challenges that most species would find lethal. Lieutenant Colonel Ryan Brooks joined the discussion, adding his expertise in human biology. Humans aren't just adapted to Earth's conditions, we're forged by them. Every human carries antibodies for thousands of different pathogens. Our cardiovascular systems are designed to handle high oxygen levels and variable atmospheric pressure. Our DNA repair mechanisms are enhanced to deal with radiation damage. We don't even think about these things because they're just part of living on Earth. Zarthok listened to this explanation with growing amazement. You mean that every human possesses these biological enhancements naturally? It's not enhancement to us, Jake said with a laugh. It's just normal life. I get up every morning, breathe the air, eat food that's covered in bacteria, work outside in solar radiation, and go to sleep without thinking about any of it. My body just handles all that stuff automatically. Dr. Rodriguez nodded. What Jake just described would be considered extreme survival conditions by most galactic species. The air you breathe every day would be toxic to many aliens. The food you eat contains biological complexity that would overwhelm most immune systems. The radiation levels you're exposed to would require protective equipment on other worlds. But you seem so weak, Zarthok said, still struggling to understand. Your physical strength is limited, your bodies are soft, and you have no natural weapons or armor. We don't need those things, Lieutenant Colonel Brooks explained. Our strength isn't in our muscles or our weapons. It's in our ability to survive in conditions that would kill most other life forms. Every day on Earth is like living through a biological and environmental assault course that never ends. Jake opened his thermos and held it up so Zarthok could see it. Want some soup? My wife made it this morning. Fair warning though, it's probably got more different types of bacteria in it than exists on your entire homeworld. The alien warrior actually laughed at this, a sound that the translation device rendered as a deep rumbling noise. I think I will pass on the soup, but I thank you for the offer. I am beginning to understand that what you call normal food would probably kill me even faster than your air did. Dr. Rodriguez studied the data on her tablet with excitement. This changes everything we thought we knew about human biology. We're not a weak species that got lucky with technology, we're a hardy species that evolved in one of the most challenging environments in the galaxy. Earth isn't a pleasant garden world, it's a death world that happens to be beautiful. Captain Foster checked Zarthok's vital signs and smiled. The good news is that you're going to make a full recovery now that we've got you in a controlled environment. The bad news is that you'll probably need to stay in protective gear for the rest of your visit to Earth. I think I have learned enough about Earth for one lifetime, Zarthok said. But I have also learned something about honor and strength that I never knew before. Jake Morrison, you have defeated me not through violence, but through the simple act of living your normal life in an environment that I cannot survive. And then you showed me kindness when you could have claimed victory. You are a greater warrior than I ever was. 3 days later, Zarthok stood in his environmental protection suit on the landing platform beside his ship, preparing to leave Earth forever. The bulky suit filtered the air he breathed and protected him from the microscopic dangers that surrounded him on every side. Through the clear faceplate, he could see Jake Morrison, approaching with a small group of humans who had come to see him off. The alien warrior had spent his recovery time recording a new message that would be broadcast across the galaxy, replacing his earlier challenge with something far more important. He had learned things about strength and survival that changed his entire understanding of what it meant to be a warrior. I want to apologize for underestimating your world, Zarthok said to Jake as the construction worker reached the landing platform. I came here expecting to fight weak creatures on a soft planet, but I discovered that I was the weak one. You live every day in conditions that nearly killed me in less than 5 minutes. Jake shrugged in his typical casual way, still not fully grasping the galactic significance of what had happened. You don't need to apologize for anything. You couldn't have known what Earth was like before you got here. I hope you feel better. Now, Dr. Rodriguez joined them, carrying a datapad filled with research that would revolutionize galactic understanding of human biology. "Your visit has taught us as much about ourselves as it has about you," she said to Zarthok. "We never realized how unique Earth's environment was until we saw how it affected someone from another world." The alien warrior activated his ship's communication system one final time before departure. His message would reach every inhabited planet in the galaxy within hours, and it would change humanity's status among the galactic community forever. "Of the galaxy," Zarthok began, his voice carrying across space to billions of listeners. "I came to Earth as your champion, confident that I would easily defeat any human in combat. I was wrong in ways that I could never have imagined." He paused, looking through his faceplate at Jake, who was checking his watch because his shift at the construction site started in an hour. "The humans did not defeat me through superior weapons or advanced technology. They did not defeat me through greater physical strength or faster reflexes. They defeated me simply by living their normal lives on a world that would kill most of us within minutes." The message continued as Zarthok explained what he had learned about Earth's environment and human biology. He described the incredible diversity of microscopic life, the complex atmospheric conditions, and the constant exposure to radiation and biological challenges that humans faced every single day without even thinking about it. "I have fought across 17 worlds and defeated warriors from every known species," Zarthok said. "But I have never encountered anything as formidable as the simple act of breathing Earth's air or eating Earth's food. These humans are not weak, they are the strongest survivors in the galaxy, adapted to live in conditions that would be classified as a biological warfare zone on any other world." Jake waved goodbye as Zarthok's ship began to lift off, then climbed into his pickup truck to drive back to the construction site. He still had a bridge to help build, and he was already running late. The fact that he had become famous across the galaxy meant less to him than making sure he did not lose his job for missing work. Within hours of Zarthok's message being broadcast, Earth received communication requests from dozens of alien species. Some wanted to study human biology, others wanted to establish trade relationships with a species tough enough to live on a death world, and a few wanted to hire humans as bodyguards or soldiers. The Galactic Council met in emergency session to discuss Earth's new status. The planet that had been classified as primitive and harmless was suddenly reclassified as a quarantine zone, not because humans were dangerous, but because Earth itself was too hostile for most galactic species to visit safely. Dr. Rodriguez found herself appointed as Earth's first ambassador to the galactic community, a position she had never wanted but accepted out of duty. Her research on Earth's environment became required reading at universities across the galaxy, and xenobiologists traveled from distant stars to study the death world that had produced such hardy inhabitants. Captain Forster was put in charge of establishing Earth's first orbital medical station, designed to treat alien visitors who could not safely land on the planet's surface. The station would serve as a neutral meeting ground where humans could interact with other species without exposing them to Earth's biological complexity. Jake Morrison returned to his construction job and tried to ignore the reporters who followed him around for weeks. He gave a few interviews, always emphasizing that he was just an ordinary person who got lucky. "I didn't beat him," Jake would say. "Earth beat him. I just happened to be standing there when it happened." But Jake's life changed in small ways that he appreciated more than fame. His co-workers treated him with new respect, his wife was proud of his kindness to the alien warrior, and he received letters from children around the world who wanted to know what it was like to meet someone from another planet. Zarthok established Earth's first galactic embassy, but he built it on a space station in orbit rather than on the planet's surface. He became humanity's greatest advocate among the alien species, explaining to anyone who would listen that humans were not just another primitive species, but the product of one of the most challenging environments in known space. The galaxy learned that sometimes the strongest warriors were not those who won fights, but those who survived every single day in conditions that would defeat almost anyone else. Earth's reputation spread quickly, a beautiful blue world that was as dangerous as it was lovely, inhabited by creatures who had been forged into something remarkable by the very environment that nearly killed visiting aliens. Years later, when other species spoke of humans, they used terms like Death World survivors and environmental specialists. But Jake Morrison, who had started it all, continued to think of himself as just a regular guy who worked construction and tried to help people when they needed it. To him, living on Earth was not an extreme sport, it was just home.